Nigeria's war against corrupt practices in public service domain is moving into higher gear. This is a strive by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) to ensure public officers are held to account in service provision for stability in government and economic development. Transparency Files is the name of the platform in our quest to monitor, create awareness, set agenda, and ensure citizens come to terms with reality that corruption is the bane for the collapse of our individual and collective values for a strong and viral nation. Transparency Files is it, a program produced and sponsored by ICPC, showing on the network service of the NTA every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Keep it with us as we track public finance, ensure accountability, investigate complaints, and prosecute corrupt practices and vices in public life. Hello viewers, welcome to Corruption Must Go, a production of the Public Enlightenment and Education Department of ICPC. I am Murna Barnabas Atiayi, your host for today. Anti-corruption policies are measures designed to combat and prevent corruption within organizations, institutions, and governments. These policies typically include legal, institutional, and procedural strategies to promote transparency, accountability, and integrity. Today on the program, we shall be focusing on anti-corruption policies and their effectiveness in the fight against corruption. We would also be highlighting specific global policies and some policies initiated by ICPC. But first, let us join Ruth Awodi with Anti-Corruption Story. It is over to you, Ruth.
Welcome to this segment on Anti-Corruption Stories. I am Ruth Awodi. The chairman of ICPC, Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu, SAN, has stressed the need for teenagers to channel their energy in fighting corruption by embracing accountability, transparency, and integrity. Speaking at the 12th Teenagers Workshop organized by Al Habibia Islamic Society, Dr. Aliyu emphasized the critical role of youths in tackling corruption, particularly when aligned with religious teachings. The ICPC boss, who was represented by Dr. Anike Adeshino, an assistant director in the Public Enlightenment and Education Department, highlighted various ICPC initiatives, including the National Ethics and Integrity Policy, Schools Anti-Corruption Clubs, the National Youth Service Corps CDS Group, and Student Anti-Corruption Vanguards. Mr. Nuruddin Adeleke Adekboju, Camp Director of Al Habibia Islamic Society, thanked the ICPC team for their support and participation and mentioned that they were looking forward to further collaborations towards a corruption-free Nigeria. The workshop, which held at Epitome Model Islamic School, Maraba, Nasarawa State, aimed to educate and enlighten teenagers on the importance of anti-corruption values. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Murna. Stay with us.
watching corruption must go. The effectiveness of anti-corruption policies can vary widely based on several factors, which include political will, institutional strength, legal framework, public support, and international cooperation. We spoke with Barrister Clifford Okuduri Oparaodu, Secretary of ICPC. Let's take a listen.
Well, I can tell you from experience that anti-corruption policy as it relates to Nigeria and has been laid down in Nigeria, first and foremost, is good for the good governance and integrity, and of course, for the betterment of all Nigerians. But I can tell you too that the ability to carry out to fruition these policies has been hampered by a lot of factors. I know for sure that one thing is putting up a policy, another thing is implementation. There are laid down policies in various spheres on anti-corruption. And the idea is that the agencies concerned or set up for the purpose of putting these policies into fruition are there constitutionally. They are recognized by government. There are institutions that are there. You have the ICPC, which is being established under the ICPC Act, under the Act in 2000. You have other relevant agencies as well. For the purpose of this interview, I will talk about my own agency, which is the ICPC. The Act clearly defines the role or the duties of the ICPC. You have the area of the enlightenment, you have the area of prosecution and enforcement. On the issue of, specifically on the issue of the political will, yes, we have the political will to fight it. Yes. But you know, it takes two to tango, like they say. You might come up with an idea on how to curb this menace. But you know, while you are trying to do it, somebody somewhere will say, oh, don't do this, because of the specific interest they have. And that is the problem we have. Our politicians, our leaders have the political will to fight corruption. But what is more important is that individuals, Nigerians, should have that understanding or have that at the back of their mind that corruption, to fight corruption must start with yourself, you the individual. Because if you, for any reason, you're able to live a life that is worthy of emulation or corrupt-free, you don't need anybody to school you on the dangers of corruption. Start with yourself. Check yourself. Check your relationship with your neighbors, your people, both in the home, in the office, and wherever. Let me speak a little bit on the legal framework. I have already said that there are laws already put in place. You have the ICPC Act, which we have the EFCC laws as well. And of course, you have what we call the Proceeds of Crime Act, POCA. Now, that act, to some extent, I think nailed it all. It gives this all the relevant security agencies or the corrupt fighting agencies the power to seize assets, to recover assets of wherein the proceeds were gotten illegally. And it has gone a long way, to my own understanding, to reduce the incident of purchase or heavy reliance on assets, on properties, by fraudsters, by those who have gotten money illegally. Because when you have it at the back of your mind that those assets could be seized or be frozen one way or the other, I think you think twice before you afraid of government money or other public money for the purpose of your own selfish interest. So, and I want to say on the issue of international cooperation. I can tell you that since I came on board as Secretary of the Commission, I have the privilege of attending few seminars and conferences sponsored duly by international agencies. I give credit to ROLAC, to FATEV, UNODC, MacArthur Foundation, and Ford Foundation. There are several of them. These are foundations or individuals and groups that see the welfare and the management of Nigerian wealth and resources. You know, they take into consideration the fact that average Nigerian is being cheated out, and they invest their money, put in their fund, training and all that in training, and of course in carrying out other activities, all for the purpose of seeing how Nigeria it becomes corrupt-free. And if you ask, the question is, if these international corporations would want to leave their own country to think about the interests of another person or the welfare of another nation, why can't we, Nigerians, look at it soberly and to see whether the issue of corruption should still thrive in Nigeria enough? You know? So I commend the international agencies, donor agencies, and organizers, as well as civil society organizations who are really been crying all over the place, to Jango the radio, newspaper, and what have you, calling on everybody to see how we can get rid of corruption in Nigeria.
I am a Nigerian, a highly cultured race. My culture abhors corruption, and with my integrity, a new Nigeria is possible. I say no to corruption today to build a future for my children. Join me and imbibe the culture of integrity to build a Nigeria of our dreams.
Global anti-corruption policies are initiatives and frameworks established by international organizations, governments, and non-governmental organizations to prevent, detect, and penalize corruption in various forms. These policies aim to create a more transparent, accountable, and ethical environment in the global sphere. Professor Olatunde Babawale, Provost, Anti-Corruption Academy of Nigeria, ACAN, speaks on some of these policies and their key provisions.
It will interest our viewers to note that anti-corruption policies at the international levels did not become so prominent until the 2000s. Indeed, before the 1990s, only limited attention was paid to the initiation of anti-corruption policies at the global level. However, these policies were left to individual states, and that's why you had Nigeria, for example, in 2000 promulgating the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act, and in 2004, the EFCC Establishment Act. Now, but from 2003, we had corruption taking the center stage at the international level. The leadership at this level could be given to the African continent, where you had about 2003, the initiation of the AU Convention on combating corruption, AUCPCC. And by about 2005, you had the United Nations also bringing to the table the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. One of the reasons why this came to be was the need for there to be synergy at the international level in the war against corruption. So it was meant to formalize, intensify cooperation among nations. It was also meant to ensure that we institutionalize the process of information sharing among governments on the issue of corruption and institutionalizing mutual legal assistance among state parties. These are just basically the reasons why these were formulated. And they were meant to focus on manifestations of corruption, such as bribery, such as money laundering, illicit financial flows, and all the other related offenses. For example, the issue of money laundering and the issue of illicit financial flows have been very critical and have contributed largely to the point that it is said that annually Africa loses about $50 billion to illicit financial flows. So it's critical because money lost to these manifestations of corruption and corrupt practices could have been invested in infrastructure, in providing social services, in providing health care. Unfortunately, these are denied because money meant for that have been appropriated by specific individuals across the continent. So in a way, because our laws are lax, they are not as effective in putting under check or putting in check these corrupt practices as they are outside the continent. This is why African countries seem to be more affected. But thankfully, they are waking up to that reality, and Nigeria is doing such a thing. We are party to the inauguration of a special framework to deal with illicit financial flows, which is called Financial Action Task Force. And we play a very important role. This is meant to sanitize the financial system to prevent, in particular, illicit financial flows and, of course, counterterrorism financing. And again, when government set up an interagency committee against illicit financial flows in 2019, ICPC was made the secretariat. And to date, we've put in place a lot of measures, such as our system study and review to ensure that we checkmate or prevent or preempt the occurrence of corruption, either at the local or at the international level, especially in the oil and gas sector. We've also been to the ports where we have a tax team, of which ICPC is an important part, to ensure that we also checkmate corruption at that level. So I believe that we are doing a lot here. My hope and expectation is that those efforts will bring good result ultimately.
Thank you for staying tuned. ICPC focuses on curbing corruption in the public sector through enforcement, prevention, and public education, and as such has developed some policies that are aimed to curb corruption in the public sector, as well as boost transparency and accountability in the sector. To highlight the anti-corruption policies developed by ICPC and some activities carried out by the Commission to support its implementation, we spoke to Mr. Jimoh Sulahimon, Head, Constituency and Executive Project Tracking Initiative of ICPC.
Generally, when you talk about policies, you are talking about guidelines, you are talking about framework that guide decisions making. And these are things that set clear objectives and provide direction with regards to whatever you want to achieve or with regard to whatever anybody wants to achieve. So narrow it down, we talk about policies on anti-corruption. These are policies that the ICPC itself designed to make anti-corruption work seamless to be able to achieve its objective. One major policy that ICPC developed is the National Ethics and Integrity Policy. It's everywhere, everybody knows about that one, and it was designed in response to the damaging effect of corruption in both the public and the private sector. It was designed to help revitalize this sector with regard to people having values, people believing their ethics, people having integrity. So, and the special purpose vehicle with which ICPC engages the public is National Orientation Agency. We move across the 774 local government, preaching and engaging people with regard to how ethical they should be, how honest they should be, and it has been beautiful and it has been fruitful. Then the second one is with regards to sexual harassment policy. ICPC also constituted what we call Sexual Harassment and Abuse Response Team. It has the responsibility of handling sexual harassment cases as an intervention to reduce abuse of power and to reduce sexual harassment within the body policy or within our tertiary institutions. And this response team has been able to at least train officials of ICPC with regards to how to treat sexual harassment cases, and we have seen cases where professors, lecturers in the universities have been arrested and taken to court, and some of them have been jailed by the Nigerian court, and there are some that are still undergoing trial. So I can say that yes, we have a purpose and we have a platform with which we achieve all these policies and objectives. Yeah, another policy that we have, which is within the ICPC, is a standard operating procedure. This is to guide the activities of every officials of ICPC in relation to how you do your work or how we do our work. It is developed as a detailed set of instructions that outlines the steps of executing specific operations or tasks. If you are an operation man, there are set of objectives you are supposed to achieve, and they are set by set rules and regulations as regards how you are going to achieve those objectives. So it is done to ensure compliance with applicable laws and regulations and to lead officers through new and unfamiliar processes. What we are saying essentially is that standard operating procedures is a guide for every individual working in ICPC on what to do and what not to do, how you are supposed to treat a suspect, how you are supposed to treat a case file, and all those other. These are the things that we do. That this guides us with regards to how we do our work.
And before we draw the curtain on today's edition, let's bring you reports from our state offices. Khadija Ibrahim is our guide.
The Niger State Office Resident Anti-Corruption Commissioner, Mr. Chukura Alexander, led a team to pay a courtesy visit to the Emir of Bidda and Chairman Niger State Council of Traditional Rulers, Dr. Yahya Abubakar CFR, in his residence to encourage support among the various stakeholders in the crusade against corruption. Coming from Enugu State, the Resident Anti-Corruption Commissioner, Mr. Kennedy Ebotaman, led other principal officers of the Commission to the Vice Chancellor, Caritas University, on an advocacy visit to establish a better working relationship between the institution and the Commission. And from Kaduna, officials of the ICPC organized a sensitization program for staff of the National College of Aviation Technology, Zaria, to receive awareness and gather support in the fight against corruption in ministries, departments, and agencies. From Imo State Capital, we have the updates of the inauguration of Anti-Corruption Club in Emmanuel College, Owerri, to give the students the opportunity to fight corruption to a standstill. In the same vein, ICPC inaugurated Anti-Corruption Club in Emmanuel Vision International School, Makurdi, Benue State, in its move to reorient the minds of students against corruption. That will be all on this segment.
While anti-corruption policies can be effective, their success largely depends on political will, institutional strength, and public engagement, supported by a strong legal and institutional framework. Also note that the involvement of civil society, media, and international cooperation also play a critical role in sustaining anti-corruption efforts. Visit our website www.icpc.gov.ng to know more about some policies initiated by ICPC and the role you have to play in adhering to such policies in order to join the fight against corruption. Thank you for watching this edition of the program. See you again next week at 6:30 p.m. Friday as we start with our new program, Transparency Files. My name is Murna Barnabas Atiya.